Ready to go, Commissioner Webb? Okay. The Board of Commissioners, as the governing body of Clatsop County, all county service districts for which this body so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contract Review Board, is now meeting in regular session. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. I want to welcome everybody here this evening. Clerk of the board, can we have the roll call, please?
Chair Quilla,
Here.
Vice Chair Banks.
Vice Chair Bangs is excused.
Thank you. Commissioner Toyoka.
Here.
Commissioner Webb. Here. Commissioner Thompson. I'm here.
All right, thank you very much, Clerk of the Board. We've had an opportunity to review the agenda during our work session. Do we have any comments or questions? Are we ready for a motion?
Ready to move to approve this agenda, Mr. Chair.
Okay, second. Moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll move on to the first item, which is a proclamation for Child Abuse Prevention Month on page 7. County Manager?
Chuck Wheeler, members of the board. Unfortunately, the representative from CASA was unable to make it this evening. So I am asking that your board approve resolution and order proclaiming April 2024 as Child Abuse Prevention Month and authorize the chair to read then sign the proclamation.
Mr. Chair, could I make that motion, please? That I move that we approve the resolution and order proclaiming April 2024 as Child Abuse Prevention Month and authorize the chair to read, then sign the proclamation.
I will second.
Moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order proclaiming April 2024 as Child Abuse Prevention Month and authorize the chair to read, then sign the proclamation. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. In the matter of proclaiming the period from April 1st, 2024 through April 30th, 2024 to be Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas child abuse and neglect is a serious problem affecting every segment of our community, and finding solutions requires input and action from everyone. And whereas every child is precious and deserves to grow up in a healthy, safe, nurturing environment, free from the dangers and harmful effects of child abuse and neglect. And whereas our children are our most valuable resources and will shape the future of Clatsop County, Oregon. And whereas child abuse can have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects that have lasting consequences for victims of abuse. And whereas child abuse prevention succeeds through partnerships among parents, child welfare agencies, mental and physical health care providers, schools, law enforcement agencies, faith-based organizations, businesses, and community members by fostering loving, supportive, and violence-free homes. And whereas we acknowledge that we must work together as a community to increase awareness about child abuse and contribute to promote social and emotional well-being of children in families in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment. And whereas prevention remains the best defense for our children and families. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim April 2024 as Child Abuse Prevention Month, Clatsop County, and calls upon all community members and local agencies to increase their engagement in efforts to effectively prevent, recognize, and respond to child abuse. Dated this 10th day of April 2024, Clatsop County Board of Commissioners.
We're here.
Next is business from the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 2-minute presentation about any item on the agenda, except for public hearings, or any topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. Clerk of the Board, are there any members of the public that have signed up to speak virtually?
No, there are not.
Are there any members of the public that have signed up to speak in person?
Yes, Mary Eng.
Okay, I have Mary Rose Eng. Mary?
And good evening, County Commissioners. My name is Mary Eng. I'd like to congratulate Carol Epling for her lawsuit of $7.9 million for the pedestrian safety, severe damages to her leg. I went into the courthouse and read the case file. It's very intriguing what happened. What I'm concerned about are the issues with transparency with Superintendent Craig Hops, why the public has been left out of this, and did it affect an election cycle? I think nobody can win in a situation with a severe injury of a woman in her 70s, but I encourage everyone to drive safely. All pedestrians drive safely, wear safety colors and hats, bright colors if you can, and look out for each other and be kind and stop and wave. We can all slow down. And then additionally, I'd like to point out that two of my favorite homeless women who are elderly, disabled, they've suffered a lot of violence in their lives, have been excluded from Lifeboat. I think this would happen because you have put money in the hands of a man who has sexually harassed homeless and bullied people. I am thrilled that anybody gets a shower or gets a cot. But when you look at brothels in Germany are restricted not to be in basement because it's unsanitary and unsafe to have no ventilation and to be in a stagnant little basement. I urge you to consider working with the city to have a county ordinance specifying that shelters have to be in a humane scenario. If you put 22 dogs in a room that small, it would be considered animal cruelty. So it's not that I am against the homeless in any way. I want the homeless to have more humane to having dogs or being couples or medical needs. One of the women who's been kicked out of Lifeboat can't go up and down the stairs with her walker, and she can't travel her belongings down there. There's also a man down there with a knife who sexually assaulted women at the Deals Only store. I'd like to let you know that the Bureau of Labor and Industries is working towards a conciliation. It's sort of stagnated. Lifeboat's attorney resigned, I guess. So I'm open to conciliation because I think that's everything. Oh, and homeless camping tickets, $250 to $2,500.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. Do we have anybody else that has signed up for public comment?
No, we do not.
Okay. We'll go ahead and close public comment at this time and move to the consent calendar. We have 3 items on the consent calendar in the Board of Commissioners minutes from March 13th. Contract for bulk fuel purchase and the Hillcrest Road pulverizing and CPB 2024 contract approval. Any questions or comments on the items on the consent calendar? Ready for a motion?
Move to adopt the consent calendar, Mr. Chair.
Second. Moved and seconded to adopt the consent calendar as presented. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Move on to Commissioner reports and Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an ODOT week. Monday was the meeting of the ACT chairs in Kaiser. The chair, Julie Brown, and the vice chair, former Senator Beyer, were there working with the area committee on transportation from all over the state. Fascinating, because ODOT needs money. What I said then, and I just want to repeat it now for the record, I think Commissioner Savas from Clackamas County pointed out, we have one system of roads. It includes state and federal, county and private roads. So if we're looking at the road system, people who use those roads as pedestrians or vehicle drivers or bicyclists are operating with one system. Riffing on that, I said, I think we need a comprehensive, fair, and valid system of funding for that. So here's my proposal, because I love grabbing a third rail. Let's think about having a sales tax and exempt Oregonians. If we charge a sales tax and exempt Oregonians from paying it, then what we get are people paying for the system who do not otherwise pay for the system. So I don't know if that'll go anywhere, but it's an entertaining thought. Tomorrow at OMIC in Scappoose is the Coal-Pack and Northwest ACT meeting. If anybody wants to hear some more about that, you're as welcome as you can be. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's my report.
Appreciate the update. Commissioner Webb.
I want to sign on board that train. I believe that, I would like to make a statement in support of my fellow commissioner. I find it absolutely absurd that there is no sales tax in Oregon when tourism is one of our biggest, sectors. And there's no greater way to value money that comes in from outside than to have sales tax. Like I say, when you perfect that piece of legislation, would you let me know so I can sign on to it? Monday was also a day when I attended the, Don, I'm gonna need your help with the PS.
Is it, I'm trying to remember which one that would be, so.
The guys who do the law enforcement training,
Oh, TPSST.
DPSSD, but it would be nice if everybody knew what that meant. The Department of
Public Safety
Public Safety
Standards and Training.
The folks, actually, there were about 10 of the senior staff from the organization came and met with every city police force was represented in the room, as was Sheriff Phillips and myself. And it was an interesting conversation because they're taking a dog and pony show around the state, trying to make up for the fact that they're terribly underfunded and that we also are terribly unsupplied with law enforcement professionals throughout the state of Oregon at virtually every level. And they were talking about how they're trying to run their programs with so little money, and basically making a request that local police and sheriff's offices contribute some of their expert professionals to this organization in order to actually conduct some of the training, which I thought was just outrageously sad. And especially for law enforcement agencies like ours, they all value continuous training as a very, very valuable tool in both retaining staff and in getting oncoming staff trained as well. There was not a lot of sympathy among the discussion because, needless to say, they're all understaffed as they are. And so sacrificing one of their officers for a 3-week course in Salem is simply not something they can do. And I think it's another one of those very, very sad issues that we've got to start facing in this state, that we're going to have to put some public money into our necessary workforce in order to train them properly. We face this in the work that we've done for childcare. We face it, our businesses face it, our healthcare industry faces it. We were just talking a minute ago about a program about deflection that we're going to talk about in a minute. We're terribly understaffed. We can't get trained social workers and psychologists. And so I guess my message is that it's also faced by our law enforcement folks. And that's very concerning. I'm finding that my new position as the chair of the Regional 5-County Workforce Systems Board is a little bit more demanding than I thought it was going to be, but I'm going to be attending a conference in May back in D.C. on some employment issues that I'm really looking forward to being able to bring back. I've also met with 2 of the members of the board of the community college, offer our assistance and my assistance to them in structuring their programs and getting the necessary funds through the Work Systems Board for it. And I think that's all I have.
Okay, great. Thank you, Commissioner. We should appreciate your work on that. Thank you.
we could have further discussion too, but as far as sales taxes, one thing, it's a slippery slope. Because already, in Oregon, we kind of have a sales tax already. There's a corporate activity tax, it's already being charged on all goods, and it was designed as a pass-through. So consumers are already paying a sales tax, you know, it's based on gross sales, and it's a pass-through to the consumer, so it's already a sales tax, just has a different name. So as we talk about that future thing, it's kind of one of those slippery slopes. We have to kind of really figure out what is, you know, a true sales tax, what is consumer already paying, and so when we have further discussions, we can kind of incorporate that into the discussion too. My report, first of all, Veterans Monthly Breakfast. I wanted to say it got kicked off. Our VSO, Carl Wiley, we had the first one on April 4th. We were proudly, it was at Lums Auto Center, and the breakfast was provided and donated by Zach Poole, owner of the Pig and Pancake. So, and the response right now is that we are getting queries from different restaurants and different providers to deliver breakfast free to the veterans. They used to go to a location, pay their, you know, $7 or $8 fee, get their food. Since this is starting up, it's kind of overwhelming. We're getting wonderful support, and actual people are wanting to donate their time, their goods to put on this veterans breakfast. The real benefit of the veterans breakfast is not the food. It's getting our VSO, Carl Wiley, in front of veterans, helping them figure out what services are available, you know, get them logged into the system, looking at their benefits. So this is a really convenient way of getting people in front of our VSO and providing the benefits they need. So kicked off, the next one will be May 2nd, so looking forward to that. Right. Another topic, there was an elk story that came out in the news about the Clatsic Plains elk and hunting and killing, you know, the damage tags that were utilized. I've responded to KGW, and I've also put in, with the help of PJR, PAO, article to the Daily Astorian, Seaside Signal, and Gazette, because I think they only told a part of the story. A big portion of the story that they forgot, was that we had more than 25 representatives from local organizations and our government agencies worked in a partnership to find ways to improve public safety, reduce property damage, and maintain healthy and viable elk herds via our Clatsic Plains Elk Collaborative. When you look at it, we had, like I said, 25 partners, including ODF&W, Warrenton, mayors of Warrenton, Seaside, Gearhart signed off and endorsed the document. It was 2 years, it was a 2-year process to come up with this elk collaborative. How can we do this before the first tag was issued? So, you know, the report kind of made it look like it was out of the blue, and I'm surprised it happened. There were public hearings, there were a lot of community engagement during those 2-year period. It was not a surprise, and I think it was a very thoughtful process. ODF&W did a lot of studies on the health of the herds, come up with those numbers. It was not arbitrary, and they looked at movements, and it was all about behavioral change for the elk. And if you look at it, I think they need to take another story or another jab at it and say, okay, yes, the elk are not in those same areas. Maybe it's because the behavioral changes were successful. Because right now on the east side of the highway, you'll see a lot more elk. They're not crossing over as frequently and not in the same numbers. So I think it had a positive effect in changing those behaviors without diminishing the herds. So with the continued partnership with ODF&W, we'll get the real data on the number of animals in those herds, how successful this program was, and, you know, it's going to alleviate a lot of that human-elk interaction that was not positive. So more to follow. I'm on the regional housing board here with, and one of the things that comes up, you know, there's short-term rentals, obviously, as part of the conversation. I'm just going to address one small segment. You know, there's a lot of argument. We've had some emails to our board about it too, the discussion of, well, short-term rentals will free up the housing supply. That's not necessarily a true statement. So, and we've had, and I got the data from our previous meeting from the assessor's office, and it showed here is the demographic of the short-term rentals within Clatsop County, the numbers, and if you look at those numbers, they're actual conclusion was, these are not homes that'll fall into workforce housing. My concern about trying to use those comparisons is that if somebody truly says, we're gonna get all of our housing supply back, we get rid of short-term rentals, number one, it's not true. Number two, my concern is it will diminish the efforts in our program to create workforce, that missing middle housing, all the work we're doing right now, we're trying to create that. We still need that need. We still have to continue that effort. We can't kind of fall into the pitfall of, well, this will supply the housing, so we don't need to be as focused on this other effort. I think we have to stay focused and kind of say, yes, it might have a fractional impact, but not much. There's studies from Purdue University saying, you have a short-term rental in an area, your housing goes up 2.7. Well, right now, the study's saying the HCP might, because of the increased timber and production costs, our housing costs might go up 14%. So which is the greater damage to our housing supply, short-term rental or HCP? So those are all things that we're going to figure out. We're going to have to, look at the true data as it comes in and have to make those adjustments. But my concern is, and I don't want to ever lose focus, that we are trying to find ways to facilitate and remove barriers to create workforce housing in this county. So that's my one more thing there. Fun fact too, I'm on the Cedar board. We had discussions about power. How are we going to get more power in this area? There's all the discussions about the governor wants to reduce dams, get rid of dams. Well, that's going to remove power. So how do we supply it? We can't replicate that amount of energy through any other means. So we can't consume more. So that they asked me, okay, you're a car guy. What are you going to do about these EVs? And I just, kind of just brought it back to the basic. If you look at this published reports from, scientists or not only manufacturers, but actually, NADA and some other government agencies, there's a 1-6-90 rule right now with lithium technology. It's one electric vehicle, same raw materials, same rare earth materials, to build one electric vehicle battery. You can build 6 hybrid plug-ins or 90 hybrid vehicles. If you take the same raw materials and build 90 hybrids, current technology, those 90 hybrids will have 37 times more reduction of carbon emissions than the one electric vehicle. Because of all the, in the manufacturing process of that one vehicle, you can have 90 and it's 37 times less. So, we all have to be considering, where are we going? If there's all these EV mandates, let's look at the technology we have today. Is it a great idea to say push in right now? No. I think I'd rather go with 90 hybrids and do less damage to the earth and then let our technology catch up before we say EV is the way to go. That's it.
Wow.
Sorry for the long one tonight.
No, thank you, Commissioner Toga. Appreciate all you're doing.
I try to address, when people come out to me during the 2 weeks between meetings and address questions, I just try to reflect that in our meeting.
And appreciate that. Thanks for the thorough answers. I know that, Commissioner Webb, you mentioned you're going to go back to Washington, D.C. I know that Commissioner Thompson and I had the opportunity to go back a few weeks ago. I think it'd be good for Commissioner Toyoka and Commissioner Bangs also to be able to go back. Represent us, because we have all of these pending requests, a lot of CIP requests in front of Senator Merkley, Senator Wyden, Representative Bonamici, and I think anytime that we can get face-to-face and do that, asking, I think that's very important. Commissioner Webb.
Yeah, I wanted to mention, I forgot, that Senator Merkley was here last weekend, and we had a very useful meeting with him, elected, before the meeting, and I thought it was really interesting that almost all of the questions at the full meeting had been asked in the elected meetings. And I know on an issue that you and I have talked about, I expressed to him our concern about how Bohem had been not responding to our requests about offshore wind energy. And I thought it was tremendously, first of all, I was very impressed with how much he knew about it. He was really, really well informed. And he expressed the kind of good news that because we have, I know, we were asking, and I've spoken with Representative Bonamici about it as well, about the harm to our fisheries. And Senator Merkley said that he doesn't think these licenses are going to be let very soon because they're so expensive. It's so expensive. What they're learning in the rest of the world is that they're the long, what you call that, column that goes in. And he said that the cost per kilowatt is just so extreme that he doesn't think anybody's going to pick up these. So I thought that was awfully good news, and it was wonderful news that he knew so much about it and was concerned about it, and also mentioned that the same thing was true with the new FEMA regulations. That he was very disappointed. He didn't think they were very responsive to our comments at the local level, but he's on it. And so I thought that was awfully good news, because I've been talking with the regional fishery people, and they're really, really concerned about it. So I think, thank you for the
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Webb, and appreciated your emceeing as they were in your district, Commissioner.
Thank you. Yes.
In your district, you did a good job.
And his staff was wonderful to work with. It was
Yes.
a great meeting.
Yeah, it was. I would also just highlight the work session where we talked about the deflection program. Really appreciate all that the sheriff and Lieutenant Hanthorn have done to get us as an early adopter within the program, and it provides us a more efficient pathway in order for funding, or to receive funding. So that was it was nice to have it kind of laid out exactly what the process will be. And again, it reflects a lot of time and energy on behalf of our staff and our sheriff's department in putting it together. So very well done. And with that, I'll turn over to our county manager.
Chair Quilla, members of the board, I'll be really brief. As you know, it's just budget time right now. We're making the final push to get the document done and to your board. And, like every budget process, it's a team sport. A lot goes into it, and I'll certainly be talking to your board members about where we are and kind of what some of the forward challenges are going to be. Just real quickly, some of the challenges that we are really, I characterize them as being, episodic, meaning inflation, cost of procuring services, purchasing gas has been more expensive recently. We have the reserve fund to deal with those kind of episodic ebbs and flows, but there's some systemic issues that are also challenging us, and those are two of them you're very aware of. One is the impacts of tourism, which we have a legislative concept for the 2025 session. The other is the timber revenues, and there'll be a legislative approach to hopefully mitigating that in 2025 also. But the other one for me is also the fact that, providing health care in the jail is an expensive proposition, and something that a lot of the sheriffs and others have been advocating for a long time is the federal government to allow Medicaid to be used for in-custody adults. And I think that's something that obviously is a federal issue and it's a state issue. But that's something that would provide relief at every level of government that has in custody adults. So that's a bigger one. But those two issues for us, the two middle ones that I talked about, the transient lodging tax impacts of tourism, and then the ACP revenue, are going to be really vital for our stability as we move forward. So the budget process this year won't end at the end of the fiscal year. We're going to have to keep going because we don't know what's going to happen in 2025, and we'll have to have a contingency plan on what does happen if we don't get some of that relief. So just wanted to share that with your board.
Yeah, thank you, County Manager. And the sheriff was at the leaders' meeting with Senator Merkley and did make the point about the adults in custody and the gap in coverage for them and how this could be remedied with the Medicare application. So appreciate you mentioning that, and appreciated that the sheriff was able to get that in front of Senator Merkley as well. Move on to the business agenda. So we have one item on the business agenda, which is the fire department districts ARPA funding agreement on page 38, and I'll turn over to County Manager.
Chair Quila, members of the board. So this is another ARPA allocation. As you know, the county received just over $7.8 million as part of the ARPA COVID funding. We are gratified to be able to work with the fire departments, fire defense board, to come up with a methodology and an amount that will truly make a difference for a lot of these agencies. I did meet with the fire defense board. They were very thankful to the board for considering this allocation. I also walked them through the transient lodging tax concept, because certainly one of the special districts that would benefit from more transient lodging flexibility on the distribution would be fire agencies that are regularly impacted in disproportionate ways by the tourism impacts. So there's a base amount which totals $110,000 that would be allocated to every fire district as well as fire department. And then there's a volume amount that would be going to all the fire districts. So the fire districts are the non-city districts, and most of them are the most rural. And so the total allocation is $150,000, and Table 1 refers to what those total amounts are. I will say that in my discussion with the fire districts and fire departments that this money will be put to good use, essential use. Just going to give a few examples that were shared with me recently. One is as basic as buying new turnouts, which of course turnouts are vital for the firefighters. That's their base equipment that they use. So that's one example. Another example is the fire districts using it to meet the local match requirement for the purchase of a new fire engine. So 95% is being paid by the federal government, I believe, and 5% comes from local matching funds, and these funds allow them to make the local match. Another example is out in Napa. They're using the funds to purchase positive asset pressure fans, which are the fans that they use when they go onto a fire that's essential infrastructure. And so this makes a big difference. As we all know, these fire districts don't have large budgets. Most of them are volunteer-led. And certainly we have a longer-term challenge with the fire districts, but the short-term funding will certainly make a difference. And then if we can get transient lodging tax, they would have a longer-term assistance too. So we're asking your board to, sorry, I got to find the page again. We're asking your board to approve a $150,000 ARPA allocation to fire departments districts per the distribution methodology highlighted in Table 1 of the agenda summary. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Just ready to make that motion. Yes, sir. I move that we approve $150,000 ARPA allocation to fire departments and districts per the distribution methodology highlighted in Table 1 of the agenda summary.
Moved and seconded to approve $150,000 in ARPA allocation to fire departments and districts per the distribution methodology highlighted in Table 1 of the agenda summary. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Yes, job well done. And we'll move on to, I guess we'll move on to the good of the order. Does anybody have anything for the good of the order?
One thing.
Yes.
Commissioner Toyoka, I really appreciate you raising that point about other taxes. I'm looking, I think I've mentioned this before, AOC's Governance and Revenue Committee. I want to have a 3-year initiative to look at the taxing system in Oregon. I hope you'll work with me on that. Commissioner Webb, if you want to sign it, fabulous. Clatsop County will be recommend, because we want something that is comprehensive, that is equitable, that's adequate and stable. We can't keep going the way we are.
Right, that's right.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson.
Item for good of the order.
Commissioner Tuoka?
But, kudos and thanks to our staff, with that Georgia Pacific announcement about Wanna Mill, the $150 million investment into our local mill, and that is huge for us in our county, the number of jobs and all the question marks with HCP and the effect of our timber industry, having that investment here and keeping those jobs, keeping that, a local economy, that is huge. So thank you to county manager and staff for all that effort.
Absolutely. Yes. Good kudos, Commissioner Tuoka. Anything else? Okay, we'll go ahead and adjourn this evening.